Hello, everybody from all around the world and all across the internet. My name is Sensei Suplex, and I'll be your lovely host for today's as we have D8 for inspiration. However, I am not alone, as we actually have a special guest star in our Chaotican Writer ourselves, or themselves, the likes of a masterclass DM, Chaotican Writer Matt, buddy, pal. Could you please say hello to the beautiful people all around?
Greetings and hello, everybody. Yes, my name is Matt, your Chaotican Writer, and I'm very thankful to be here this evening. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to everybody out there about dungeon mastering.
Of course. And that's actually going to be the grand sort of topic for today, where we are going to be breaking down exactly how we go about our dungeon mastering skills, as obviously a lot of you may know, but for those of you who don't, a couple of quick introductions. Hey, basically I'm Sensei Suplex. I'm a professional dungeon master who, again, runs this giant living persistent universe where basically all of these multiple games, about four or four and more, will all basically be able to affect each other in a multitude of big and small ways. On top of that, multiple other dungeon masters as well, Chaotic Writer being one of them, is able to also affect the games and campaigns themselves with their own campaigns. So a huge, crazy sort of process, and we have a lot of dungeon mastering expertise to be able to help you guys be able to bring your D&D games to that of the next level. We're going to be talking about tips for older dungeon masters who are more experienced. We're going to be having new tips for newer dungeon masters. We're even going to be having tips for people who are trying to get into the trade and becoming a DM and jumping behind the screens themselves. It's going to be a fantastic talk. You guys are going to hopefully get a lot of value and really enjoy yourselves along the way, as there's going to be tons of jokes, cracked, and more. It's going to be a fun old time and a super helpful time. But yeah, having said, now that's a little bit of my introduction, but hey, it's not all about me. It's not all about me at all. Chaotic Writer, our guest, could you please introduce yourself? What do you do? Where can people find you? All that stuff.
Absolutely. So, once again, my name is Matt, your Chaotican Writer. You could find me at twitch.tv/Chaotican_writer. You could also find me at www.chaoticanwriter.com, which is a site where I post up articles about world building, storytelling, tabletop, and there's a bunch of resources there like random name generators. I have been a dungeon master for over a decade. I've run 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 5th. I've done homebrew, published modules. I've done Adventures League. I've ran D&D at conventions, just all over the place. And Dungeons and Dragons is my bread and butter. I have run other tabletop systems as well, but for the most part, you know, the most mainstream and well-known tabletop game is Dungeons and Dragons, and that is what we're going to be talking about this evening. But of course, some of the stuff we're talking about may also apply to some of these other tabletops as well.
Yeah. Oh man. So we're gonna actually do a little bit of a kind of like interview, but also giving out a bunch of valuable tips and showing off like sort of going about our experiences in the past when we first started DMing, going about our experiences as we're currently DMing, and then seeing what, or sharing these things so then we can tell or explain to the people what they can learn from it, and then maybe some of the tips that they can apply in their own little home games, or maybe when they're making their first little home game. So super excited to talk about that. But
absolutely,
Matt, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this right. We're gonna start all the way back, the way back when you were just a baby becoming their dungeon master for the very first time. Not a baby like when you're coming out of the womb, but a baby when you were actually becoming a DM and jumping behind the screen. But
okay, so no fable about you know, me being wrapped in blankets and the doctor saying it's a boy, and all of a sudden there's a D20 just kind of sitting. Yeah, all right.
Oh man. Actually, you know what? Let's go even further. Fine. Let's just go even further.
Let's go even further.
How did you get into D&D? How did you get into TTRPGs? All that stuff. What were your beginnings?
There were phases in that journey. I think the very first experience I had with Dungeons and Dragons was when I was in high school as a first-year student, and one of the juniors was a dungeon master, and I had only played a single session. And having no idea what to expect, I basically stepped into it, creating a character that was the vibe of what I was at the time, which was the wizard goth rocker who practiced in fire magic. It was terrible, but it was fun. And I remember the session had to do with apprehending a traitor to the crown who ended up being undead and like fighting a whole bunch of zombies. The details of that are not necessarily important. What is important is that from that moment forward, that experience of immersing myself into this world as a character, as part of this grand play orchestrated by a master of storytelling, it basically changed my creative trajectory forever. And it's ultimately what spawned my thirst for medieval fantasy fiction and tabletop games, and a bunch of my passion for writing. And the thing is that it was only one session, right? As a player, just one single session, and I got hooked. It wouldn't be until like 5 years later that I would have an opportunity to play as a player again.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know. But by that time, I had become so enthusiastic about this game, about the prospect of it, that I, had sort of already decided in my mind that I wanted to figure this game inside and out, and I wanted to use it as a way of, enticing that personal instinct in myself to create worlds and to tell stories and to like capture, audiences and stuff like that. That is it's a perfect platform for being somebody who likes creating, whether you're a player or a dungeon master.
Heck yeah, that is awesome. But man, I guess, I've told this story multiple times, but to retell the tale once more. So the way I got into D&D in general was, it was kind of a weird sort of thing. I went through my entire life, basically saying, hey, never gonna be a nerd. Never gonna be a nerd. Can't play Dungeons and Dragons. No, we can't do that. No. I can be a little bit of a nerd. I can watch Dragon Ball Z. I can watch anime. I can play, video games. I can do other geek stuff. But no, Dungeons and Dragons, that's where the hard line is. And one day, fast forward, freshman year in college, a bunch of my friends are basically saying, hey, we're gonna play some D&D. We got nothing better to do. It's Thursday. No one's got homework. Hey, hey, Key, you wanna go learn something? What are you playing, Dungeons and Dragons? Ugh, no, I don't wanna do that. But I'll watch or something, I'll watch. Yeah, I'll watch. So I go down there. They go into the small little, I guess, conference room, because that was the only place we could play D&D, really. And the dungeon master sits all the players down. They're like, yeah, so this is D&D, so this is like kind of how it goes. It's a fantasy role-playing game where you can basically be anybody you want or make any characters you want and go on crazy vast adventures. And if you want to play like Link from Legend of Zelda, or you want to play just a raging Viking barbarian or whatever it may be, you can do that in Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Telling me I can be anybody or do anything? I can't make this up. I'm literally like, sign me up. I want to do this. This sounds awesome. I want to let the creative juices flow. Let's go. Give me a character sheet. And
I'm in.
Exactly, right? Yeah. And then immediately I sat down, made a character that you guys know is Avalok, a part of the Auroraverse and all that stuff. And the rest is history. So that is awesome. So I think one thing to note, or that I'd like to sort of attribute that to, like, just the story in general. Anybody can play D&D from any walk of life. At least give it a shot. You never know. It could be.
Absolutely.
Hey, I said I would never play it, and look at me now. We're talking on Twitch.tv about D&D. Didn't think we'd see ourselves here. That is awesome. But Matt, I'll have a question. Did you ever see yourself being able to talk about D&D on live streams and all that? Because you run your own Twitch stream, right?
I do run my own Twitch stream, and I've run a number of different games on there, and I've also run a World Building Wednesday stream, which has been semi-regular, but yeah, I mean, it was and I'm noticing this for a lot of people that you know, there was always that like curiosity about streaming, because I know I wanted to do something video, you know, and YouTube was certainly an option. And as a matter of fact, I was part of a small YouTube group for a while. It was kind of fun. But the thing is that I finally was like, okay, it's the pandemic. I'm not going anywhere. I am stuck here. I'm stuck here in my apartment. I might as well try this streaming thing. And so, and the thing is that Twitch being such a large and prominent community, a lot of it for video gaming, I figured that I wanted to do something a little different and wanted to do more creative stuff. I did like writing sprints and writing prompts. I did some world building streams. And then, of course, I came upon Project Aurora by way of raids, communication via streams, and Discord. So I'd say that was a pretty significant shift in the direction I wanted to do as a content creator, you know. Because it's such a fantastic universe with many DMs, many campaigns, many more
players. About this. It's Ambrose's job, and you know it.
All right.
Oh, and also, if you guys, you can find Matt over on twitch.tv/Chaotican_Writer. Is it _Writer or just Chaotican Writer?
It's _Writer. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, you can find him over there. But Matt, so we're talking about D&D and kind of like how you got started with, you know, jumping into the hobby. And we also mentioned that, hey, again, if you haven't tried it out or any sort of TTRPG, just any one of them in general, whether it's D&D, Call of Cthulhu, whatever it may be, at least try it, dip your toe in and see where it goes. Because again, it could be the thing that maybe changes your entire life. So give it a shot. But as we talked about that, now let's go a little bit further down the lines. What made you want to become a dungeon master? Now, out of all, I know you were being a player and you had that sort of, well, not sort of small, it was a pretty long gap of 5 years, but what made you want to say, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to take up the big role behind the screen. What made you want to do that?
Well, there were multiple steps to that too, because I know for a fact that one of the big drivers was the same driver that it took for me to want to do, you know, short story writing and want to try to get into novel writing. There was this entire world, this entire, you know, pantheon, setting, history that I had sort of been cultivating as part of that effort to basically write a bunch of stories in. And around the time of college, when I had actually been a more consistent player in a campaign that probably lasted like 7 to 8 years, let's be honest. Wow. It was a long campaign. Matter of fact, you probably can't see it, but there's a thing on my wall. There's a frame on my wall that has a character sheet. A 2nd edition character sheet.
Oh my
Taylor Murdoch. They are level 20. and I have that permanently framed on my wall because that was my first long-time D&D character. But I digress. Being able to sort of watch how my Dungeon Master Devin did things and how they presented the world and how they you know, kind of weaved this grand adventure together along with us. I started having more and more conversations with him about, you know, some of the tips and tricks that he had, because he had been, you know, because he grew up in a family in a family that basically taught him how to play D&D when he was younger. Yeah. And from there, I had attempted a couple times to start campaigns, and I was trying to set it in this world that I had pre-created. But I will say, and this is my first lesson about pretty much anything, regardless whether it's like dungeon mastering or you're writing or whatever it is. The first draft is always going to be terrible. The first time is going to be rough, and you just kind of have to like accept it and roll through it. There's all sorts of things that you can do in order to improve the performance of yourself as a dungeon master, and you can improve the experience for the players. Hell, you can end up starting a campaign that lasts a long time and has memories that you will never forget. It invokes memories that you will never forget. But no matter what, when you're just starting out, you have to sort of expect things to get a little rocky, because despite the fact that right now you and I know the game in and out. Yeah. The first time looking at that player's handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide was just kind of flipping through pages and seeing numbers on sheets and being like, that first time, I think every single DM has had that sort of reaction to the first time of going through all of the mechanics and the technicals of the game.
Wait, you guys looked at the player's handbook? I just winged it.
Wait a second.
Honestly, it was just my buddy Dylan. He just told me like, "Hey, Key, this is like, there's these crazy builds and crazy cool little mechanics and all that stuff." I'm like, "Wow, that's super cool. I don't know what the heck you're talking about, but this sounds dope to me." Oh man.
Yeah, no, like that stuff's pretty vanilla, but it's still it's still something that requires practice to kind of get through. And I think the best way to learn how to become a halfway decent DM is to be a player. Is to be a player, but not just be a player, but to be a player who pays extra attention to what the DM is doing.
Yeah. And
kind of learning from that experience, because I think when you really think about it, going from a player to a dungeon master, it's sort of like an apprenticeship, right? It's like it's a trade in that sense, where you have a master and apprentice architect, or you have master apprentice blacksmith.
Yeah.
Dungeon mastering is a trade unto itself, and the best way for you to learn is from somebody who has been doing it. And so watching them and paying attention to what they do in certain situations and having behind the scenes conversations with them, that's probably going to be your number one resource.
Yeah. Because now that I think about it, there's two good things I actually want to go on about. One, I think because a lot of my DMing style, it originated. Because remember, I said that I didn't really read the player's handbook. I just kind of assumed these were the rules, and I kind of figured stuff out as like, oh, okay, so my player wants to do this, I'll look up the rules, and we'll figure out how it works, and then go from there. But a lot of the basis for how I DM'd was derived from my original Dungeon Master, Josh. And I kind of would ask him questions on like, hey, how did you do this, or how do these things work? And then, again, kind of what you said, but going behind the screen or going behind the scenes and doing all that stuff, it definitely helped me out significantly. But also another thing that I want to mention, hopefully my brain doesn't blank out here, but it was it was also saying that, hey, even though things are going to be like, first time sort of DMing, it's going to be bad, that is kind of okay. That's perfectly fine. That is more than okay, because no matter how bad it can really get, as long as you focus on improving after the fact, then hey, you're on the right track. Just keep focusing on improving and improving and improving, and go from there. So don't be, I know it can be a little bit scary to get started, and you may feel like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll tell you one thing. Most dungeon masters, when they were first starting out, they had no idea what they were doing. Did you, Matt?
Nobody. I had no idea what I was doing. And as a matter of fact, my very first attempt was in high school. It was kind of weird, because I went from playing in one session to wanting to be a dungeon master, because that DM had moved away. And that's the reason I wasn't able to play anymore. And so I was like, oh, I want more of this. So I figured that I would end up being the person to try to learn how to run D&D, and I ended up getting people together, and I had like pep talks with everybody individually, and then I started, and then I think 10 to 15 minutes into it, I totally froze up because I was like, oh, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? Oh, okay. So, we said this, and now I'm waiting for some. Okay, and then it did not go. It did not go very well. It did not last very long. But you can definitely learn from every single failure that you have as a dungeon master, no matter what that failure is. And in that case, it literally was I was too intimidated by the mechanics, by actually running the mechanics, despite the fact that I had spent so much time trying to read through them and understand them. And I had understood them. I just realized that disconnect between knowing something and the efficacy of having done something had like split at that moment. And I realized that it's going to take a few times for me to ease into this. But that is young. That is young Matt.
Young Matt. And this is old and that grizzled Matt.
Old grizzled Matt. This is Sandman.
All right. So actually, the last thing I want to mention was you said also being a player and a DM helps, or very much so. And I think there's one thing that actually gets overlooked for sure. We may have a couple of dungeon masters in the chat, possibly, and you all can confirm or deny. Yeah, actually, I see a couple individuals right now, but you may be able to confirm or deny. I feel as if that when I started DMing, because I was originally a player. I played 4 sessions and then I started DMing or whatever. My DMing style not only was influenced by my original DM, but it's also influenced because of anything that I thought that they did really, really well, I tried to implement myself. Anything that I thought they didn't do as well or, that great, I tried to, again, when I DM'd, I tried to improve upon it. I tried to, throw my own little spin and twist as well. Now, flipping the script back, jumping back to being a player and playing with other dungeon masters, it made me become a lot more aware of the practices. As like, man, I kind of, whenever a dungeon master does XYZ, I as a player, and maybe even the other players may feel this sort of way. And that's not necessarily a good thing. So whenever I'm going to be a dungeon master again, this is what I'm going to improve upon or really, really sort of hammer down and everything, right? So, the TLDR, I think definitely, if you can, being a player and a DM doesn't necessarily have to be at the same time, but having experience on both sides of the screen definitely does help out a lot. And if you can.
Absolutely.
Right? 100%. But that being said, you actually mentioned of a huge thing of like players or whenever they're getting ready to, start DMing, that there may be this sort of, I don't want to call it dread, but something about it is like, I don't really know if I can be able to handle all the rules. I don't know if I'll be able to do this and that and all things in the third or whatever, right? But I have a question. In your opinion, what do you think is one of the biggest reasons a lot of individuals aren't joining behind the screen? They're not getting started to Dungeon Master in the first place. You think it's fear? You think it's the workload? What do you think it is, Matt?
Well, I think one of the things is the dungeon master role has such prestige, such allure in its very name, as well as when we sit and we participate in a game as players and we're watching the dungeon master do things. The dungeon master is the epitome of regardless of whatever is going on in the dungeon master's space or the dungeon master's mind or what's on the page, they appear as the epitome of a knowledgeable authority who's able to wield this world and wield this table. And not literally wield the table, but
I grabbed the table.
Be able to influence the table and to guide everybody towards the light of inspiration and adventure. And that is a position that as a player you could find intimidating. You could think to yourself, you could have your own maybe set of anxieties or imposter syndrome suggesting that, I couldn't find myself in that position, or that they seem like they have everything together. I couldn't keep track of all of those details. And the thing is that I think I don't want to. Hey, Dungeon Masters, feel free to yell at me as loud as you can for saying this. But for all the allure behind the being a Dungeon Master and the title of a Dungeon Master, it's sort of hyped up when you think about it. There's much more of a mental block when it comes to moving from player to Dungeon Master, because honestly, being a Dungeon Master is really just being a player. You just have a multiplied set of NPCs, and you actually have control of the story, right? Or I mean, let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase it. Yeah. You have probably the most influence over the story because you're the host, right? I'm not saying that if you're a player, you should have control of the story because
your player. No, I'm messing with you.
No, I do not. I swear to you.
Basically, saying like
multi-linear at worst.
Basically, you're saying that you as the Dungeon Master, you provide the challenges, the obstacles, not really objectives, but you present the situations for the players to be able to interact with, and then again, you just describe the results of what they do and what happens after the fact, pretty much.
Right. Yeah, and once you sort of understand that part, you kind of realize that the books and the modules and all of the different resources, these are all structured guides. They're all tools, but they are not the authority. You essentially are the individual who decides how the game flows. That sort of, that adapts to what the characters are doing and providing, challenges to the characters. And there is some micromanagement there, but to be honest, there is a lot of power for you to just create and to use your mind's eye, just use your imagination on where you want to bring everybody at the table. You don't have to be a rules lawyer. I will say that it's probably helpful to maybe have a rules lawyer at the table. You could be a rules lawyer yourself, but the biggest thing, if you talk to a lot of individuals who...
just so everybody knows, what is a rules lawyer for everybody else?
Rules lawyer is a term that I use for a individual. Could be a player, could be a DM, could be a spectator, but somebody who is there to make sure that if a particular spell goes off, or a particular feature takes place, or a particular mechanic comes into play, that they're there to kind of guide and inform everybody that, okay, so just according to the book, this is how things ride. Not like I'm going to sue you for doing this wrong, but as they're a live talking resource.
You're telling me I can get sued playing D&D? What the heck?
No. I mean, that would be a wacky world to live in, and unfortunately, unfortunate that would be. So that's what I mean by rules lawyer. Basically, if you're a first time dungeon master, you could actually, it may be best if you had your DM as a player at that table. Like if you were a player for as part of a DM's campaign, and you wanted to take your first shot at being a dungeon master yourself, you could run like a 1-shot or like a 3-shot or something, and then include your DM at the table, because they would be somebody to sort of help you through the process and sort of give you tips beforehand, but to also kind of just guide the table and guide you in more subtle ways during the game. That's an invaluable resource to have in a game if you're just starting out. Obviously, if you're somebody who's an experienced dungeon master, you don't need somebody telling you how the rules go. It's like, I will still find myself, honestly, trying to like run through a round of combat and a particular spell will go off.
Yeah, and it's just like, how does this thing work? Or
yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, if you're sometimes when you are a long time DM, some things you memorize, and then some things you're just kind of like, it's been forever since I looked it up.
Yeah.
I haven't needed to look it up. It's like, oh, so hex. Yeah, that's right. That's how it goes. And that's a normal thing. That's a normal thing that happens. I have personally felt that if certain decisions are made at the table that don't absolutely positively fit the books, and you don't have time to look it up, and you are just flat out unclear, just make a decision.
Yep.
Move on, and then review it after the game.
Make a decision, whatever, and then go from there. And then, after the end of the session, like you were saying, just then review it, figure out what it actually should be for future sort of occurrences and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's not worth the headache to spend 20 minutes trying to like debate the individual parts of a level 6 or 7 spell, right?
Yeah. And all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
But, so going to that, so it seemed, and correct me if I'm wrong, so you were saying like a big struggle was just kind of like well, a couple of things. One being a little bit of the memorization of all the rules, and like, or that sort of how you say, pressure to be able to remember a lot of the rules and like really try to get everything kind of right on the first time. But also on top of that, more so, I don't want to say like being kind of a leader-ish figure, but it seems like from what I've seen throughout this sort of, I guess my little short bit of experience, a lot of people like to look at the Dungeon Master as the kind of the de facto leader, the person sort of ringing around everybody, the puppet master or whatever you want to call it, all that stuff. And it seems to be a lot of, it's a lot of responsibility, right? But
causing occasional emotional damage, and you got to do it sometimes.
Yeah, just killing characters that have been long a part of,
I'm still upset. I'm still upset.
I did nothing wrong. For context, everybody, basically we had a session right beforehand, and a long-term character, a part of our game, just got straight up obliterated, and they are gonzo. Emotional damage has been given to everyone. Well,
you
not
killed my
everyone,
boy.
but some people. Oh man. But yeah, so the question is, so after sort of identifying like one of the big reasons, what would be my big reason I think that a lot of people don't really get started in behind the screen?
I think there's a lot of reasons, but yeah.
It really is. I don't think it's just going to be one specific reason, I don't think it is. It's just one thing that I think of. I kind of agree 100% with you. A lot of the time, a lot of people from what I've seen, they'll be like, it kind of a little bit of imposter syndrome, like, man, I can never be as good of a DM as you, Sensei, or I can never be as good of a DM as you, Matt Mercer, or whoever it may be, whatever. They believe that they kind of won't be able to get, do a good job. And kind of going back to what we said before, again, almost no matter what, it'll be very rare if it's really, really good. Most of the time when you first start DMing, or heck, even playing D&D, it won't be perfect. It might not even be good, but that's okay. As long as you're having fun and you're, again, just going about the experience and everybody else at the table is having fun. Well, hey, we're sitting around the table to play a game. Games are supposed to be fun. So if you're not having fun, we got to change that a little bit, We got to really, really prioritize that sort of stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. Never, ever compare yourself to Dungeon Masters like Matt Mercer from day one. As a matter of fact, just don't compare yourself to Matt Mercer. He's completely on another level.
Actually, I want to bring one little thing onto that. Don't compare yourself to any other Dungeon Master. You want to know why? Because you're not going to be the next Matt Mercer. You're not going to be the next Sensei Suplex, Chaotican Writer. Doesn't matter. You're going to be yourself, and you're going to be better. Because you are going to have a unique DMing style that you're going to create. that you're going to be known for, because it's going to be yours. Focus on improving that DMing style that works for you and your game table, and that's all that matters. You're not DMing for any other place. You're DMing for you, your friends, or whatever your table is made up of. So go for that and focus on making that the best experience you can.
100%. Every single Dungeon Master player, in this case, just Dungeon Master specifically, everyone has their own voice. You are a culmination of all of the influences of the others near you and of the creators you love, but by the end of the day, you should not be chasing after having a voice like this person or like that person. It's your voice, and the journey is really about discovering what your voice is and making the most out of your specific way of running Dungeons and Dragons.
100%. So, that goes into the next sort of thing that I want to go into. So, I don't know. This one's a tough question. I'm not gonna lie. I wrote it down. I'm like going back and forth. So, do you think there's multiple, issues on why a lot of people don't get behind the DM screen, but do you think there is a way to solve that issue that I mentioned, that one issue that I mentioned before of like, the sort of workload, the sort of the pressure of being a DM? Do you think it's possible to be able to solve it? Or is it just kind of gonna come down to the sort of mentality sort of thing? What do you think, Matt?
I think you absolutely can solve it. And the best way to solve it is to narrow the scope. Because like you have, if I were to say that you had to buy every single Dungeons and Dragons book and read them front to back, I'd be a terrible liar. Horrible, terrible liar.
But I bought I bought Curse of Strahd. I bought the Monster Manual. I even bought like Monsters of the Multiverse. What do you mean?
I mean, these are all fantastic tools, and like there are some really great hardcover modules, 100%. But I think if you're just starting out as a dungeon master, what you might want to do is find specific one-shots in modules that and the entire point of a one-shot is to throw in an adventure that doesn't necessarily need to have any continuity with anything before or after it. It is something that, you have a setting, you have an opportunity for characters to get together, you have a inciting incident for an adventure, you have something that hooks on to those adventurers and gives them a reason to get involved in that adventure. You have a location, you have monsters to fight, you have a puzzle, you have a trap, and you have treasure. One shot is going to have all of those things condensed into a few pages. And in terms of, if you start at level 1, you only need to learn maybe a small handful of the level 1 spells. You can make things easier by narrowing the scope for sure. And on top of that, there are tons and tons of tools out there. There are different kinds of character sheets that simplifies how you put characters together. There are flashcards, and there are YouTube videos. There are fantastic and amazing YouTube videos. I know Matt Colville is one of my favorite YouTube content creators.
On that note, use
the League of Mats.
Matt. Oh man. But actually on that note, use the resources available to you. A lot of the stuff that a lot of the things that I learned from when it came to being a dungeon master and just learning the trade in general, it was from YouTube. That was a resource that was available to me, so I dove head first into it and I looked up non-stop videos on how to be a DM, how to sort of run certain scenarios, tips and tricks that you can kind of apply in any game. I know a huge influence for that was obviously Matt Colville, but a big one that I think that not a lot of people talk about, the DM layer. The DM's layer was freaking huge for me, learning just a lot of the basic sort of stuff when it came to DMing. him and multiple other people. So again, don't feel as if you're kind of alone when it comes to learning how to dungeon master. You can ask your friends, you can ask your other dungeon master if you have one, or just again, go on YouTube.
Yeah. There's also that special case. I don't want to necessarily say it's a special case. It's pretty frequent, actually, where you are somebody who's interested, like you've heard about Dungeons and Dragons, you're interested in it, and you want to play or you want to be a dungeon master, but there's nobody in your vicinity that runs the game, or you can't find players to play the game. Thankfully, we live in the age of the information age where you can, find certain communities online. But if you are in a vacuum, one of the best ways for you to, learn D&D is to listen to podcasts and to watch podcasts.
That's true.
Somebody in chat had mentioned The Adventure Zone, and that's one of my favorite podcasts of all time. And they, the McElroys, have so much fun running that game and playing in that game. You can get a glimpse of just what it is like to be a DM and to be a player by tuning into games run by other individuals online.
Heck yeah. And on that note, I think, which one should we tackle? Yeah, let's go with this one. So actually, on the note of sort of online D&D in general, so I think you kind of answered this earlier, but Matt, were you always an online DM, or did you DM in person before?
Oh, I DM'd exclusively in person before 2 years ago. I dabbled maybe a little bit in Roll20, just like, look at this thing, and let me try running this with my friends.
Yeah.
But before that, it was all physical meat bodies around a table, rolling dice, chunk to chunk to chunk.
Talk about your players.
Exactly. Well, I mean, as opposed to digital space, we're talking meat people.
Okay,
we're talking real people. That's what I mean. I'm not talking down to any of my players.
It's sinking like Serpent's Call. Just jump.
But yeah, it was in my living room, or it was at my friend's house, or it was at game shops, and that's where I did a lot of the Adventures League D&D was at game shops. I even held a couple people late from work who wanted to play D&D, and we basically went into a conference room and turned on the big TV, and I plugged in my laptop, and I had a visual thing going on up there, and we just kind of sort of theater of the minded it.
Yeah.
But with images up on the screen, that was fun too. That was a really fun way to do it too.
That's awesome. So actually, I did want to ask you a question. So what had it, I mean, it could be multiple things, but if you were to say maybe your number one thing, what had helped you out the most when it came to DMing in person? If there's one thing, or maybe even if it was a small couple of things, what would you say helped out? Because I've only DM'd, I DM'd in person before. It was once, twice, thrice. I can literally count it on my hand. I think 3 times, right? 3, maybe 4 times. And I would love to know.
Love to know, exactly how it's different being in front of people versus...
No. It's just anything that helped you out the most, just DMing in person. Whether it's just a small thing of hey, this is just a random tip that really helped me get behind the screen, and whether it was okay, I didn't necessarily have props, but I use XYZ to help me out, or whatever it may be.
Oh, gotcha. So that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just a general sort of thing, right?
I will. So I'll say this: it has been all over the place. At one point when I was in high school, I played. No, I'm trying to remember details. Actually, I remember there was a second time I played D&D in high school. So, but
he lied. He did.
I forgot. Is honest to God what it was. So this was a number of years post 9/11, and essentially there was a bomb threat, and all the kids went over to the other school and went to the gym, and me and my friends got bored, and one of them was basically like, hey, you want to just throw together a random, role-playing game? And they're like, sure. And in order to do like randomness, all he did was take his textbook and go to a random page, and whatever the lowest number, the lowest digit was, it was basically a D10.
Yeah.
So like you could do, it's as simple
that teacher
as
was furious.
I know. It's as simple as that, but like in terms of things that have helped me in order to run D&D, I still like visuals. So there are like dry eraser mats that you can get where you can like draw out like the walls of like dungeons. And I still think that even if maybe if you don't have a ton of money, it still is really great for every player to have their own figurine. And I know like the plastic figurines are not quite as expensive as the pewter ones. But or you could literally use Legos. There was one point in time where I literally had like just a collection of Lego people, and I was like, oh yeah, make your character. And so they were using Lego pieces across a sewing mat, which already has a grid on it. But if I really want to bring out the big guns in character, what I will do is I will have my custom DM screen. I will have my Jambox, which is a Bluetooth speaker, and I will have like my iPad with some music on it, and I will have that mat. But I will also every now and then surprise my players with a sculpture that I made out of paper or some sort of piece that I had carved out of foam or something that I had bought recently, and I'll bring that out as the terrain.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that pretty much defines a lot of how I have done it in character. I have to say that ever since I've begun doing Dungeons and Dragons on Twitch, I have not been at a table playing D&D or running D&D since the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh wow.
It is literally it has just been Roll20 and Foundry.
Yeah. Interesting. So I want to give I wish I could give a sort of tip for when it came to DMing in person on what I would probably do, or like something that helps me out a lot. But I mean, I only have about 4 sessions worth of experience, but so you know me, I'm pretty much primarily only DM'd online. But what I've seen, and you actually mentioned something before, where being able to take aspects of online play and implementing them in person, if you obviously have the money or the resources to do it, it can actually really enhance your D&D game. For example, let's say maybe I can't really afford sort of maps or like a full-on sort of miniatures maps and all that stuff. So what I could do, if we're playing like maybe in the living room, I don't know, hook up a laptop, have a VTT or some sort of battle map, or maybe just an image of where you guys are at just on the TV screen, and then go from there. Use the resources that you have available to really enhance your D&D game. Now it takes a little bit of thinking outside the box, but hey, you can even go into other things of like sort of online play that's pretty popular, such as using music online or whatever it may be. Even sound effects or whatever that you can't typically do yourself. I don't know. Maybe you're able to rig up a soundboard or something. I don't know, and you have a undead Tyrannosaurus Rex sound or whenever you need it in the actual session. I can't do that myself, but the soundboard can. Again, just use the resources that you have available to you, whether that's online or specifically and exclusively, in person. That's what I would probably say.
When all else fails, there are cell phones, and you can do, soundboards, and you can find royalty-free. I mean, you don't need to even think about royalty-free music when you're at a table and there's no camera going on. I've just been so conditioned to do things on a stream that I'm thinking about all those like copyright things, right? like legit art, legit music. But if you're doing it at a table in the privacy of a living room or at a game shop or whatever, just throw in some Mad Max Fury Road. Just do it.
Do it.
You know?
Play some Doom music. Why not? Go for it. Go crazy. Players love it. Well, I'd assume. And if they don't, oh well. Maybe you didn't necessarily pick the right music choice for them. I don't know. But yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. So you eventually, we talked about how you eventually, transitioned into online play. So Matt, we all call you this sort of thing. We call you Mr. Production Value when it comes to Project Aurora. Yeah, I mean, hey. If you don't know, well, now you know. You're Mr. Production Value. So what tools or anything in general has helped you out significantly when it came to DMing online? This is especially, you could even go, if you want to tailor it towards like maybe a GM who started, playing, offline or whatever in person, and now they're having to switch and transition to online. Whatever it may be, like whatever tips or tools that you got, share it with the people, help them out.
This sort of brings me back to a recent meeting I had with a bunch of the like Project Aurora Dungeon Masters about running OBS, but that's more on the streaming side. You're talking more about
just
running
in
the
general,
game.
Just running the game.
Okay, gotcha. I would say that bar none, and of course you're going to agree with me, and it's a given between the two of us, but I say that my favorite VTT is going to be Foundry.
Bless me. I'm kidding.
There is a lot of plugins, customizations for it that allow for different production value and stuff like that. But when we're talking production value on my side, it's mainly like all the things I do during the stream, right? To bring stuff together. And so I have a bunch
I'm being a little
of
bit modest. I don't know if you guys have seen his games. Literally, I'll go over and I'll just be playing. We'll have the whole battle map and everything. I'll see a note or whatever. I'll see a note on the map itself. I'll have my character walk over the token or the stupid note or whatever on the map, and it pulls up an entire document of freaking listed off lore and everything. I'm like, this is the most immersive game I've ever played.
So, all right, okay. So the thing is as I'm talking through this topic, I'm also trying to triangulate what the best answer is. And you bring up a really good point where there are certain things that I implemented into running games on Foundry Online where I remember, for instance, when I was playing Dragon Age Origins on my computer, and how interesting it was when, for instance, I went to the Dwarven Stronghold part of the game, and there were open quests that I had to do, but I spent literally hours inside of the tavern and inside of the library looking through the books, because there were just books you can read, not full books, but whole chunks of lore that was embedded in different places that tells you a little bit more about Ferelden or about Orlais. And I decided when I was putting together my games that I was like, okay, well, I would love to actually have the capability for characters to literally interact with something and for a lore item to pop up, whether it be like a wanted poster for a very dangerous serial killer, or it was like the Staglasia Herald, a broadsheet that has recent news, or some sort of note that's been left out in the open that sort of tells this incremental story about the place that they're in and gives them something to look out for. There is a particular plugin in Foundry called Trigger Happy that allows that to happen. Trigger Happy is really fun because you can set it so that if something it's basically an if-then statement. If something happens, then this happens.
Hold on.
Right. If if a token passes a certain point or a character passes a certain point, then I'll have like a sound effect, and there'll be a notification that a trap has been triggered, and they'll be prompted to roll a dexterity saving throw.
So basically, like, automation for your D&D game to help you out.
Yeah.
And, you know, relieve a lot of the sort of, you know, that workload that we were talking about when it comes to being a DM. It helps sort of relieve a lot of that and, you know, make things just, again, super, super snappy, super intuitive, right?
Yeah, it also helps the fact that I'm also a huge IT nerd. And that is literally that is my day job. So I think a side lesson there is a little tip for dungeon masters and those that put together specific settings for their games. I would definitely try to do the same thing and do some environmental storytelling. It doesn't necessarily need to be a note or a poster that's out in the open. It could be some sort of thing that triggers if a character enters a certain part of town automatically. Or, you know, like you can look at a video game and think scripted events. Yeah. As a dungeon master, you can make those for your game. You can make your game more. The main reason why people play Dungeons and Dragons is because it's so interactive, and there's certain things you could do with a role-playing game that you can't do with a video game.
Yeah.
But video games teach us a lot about interactive mechanics, and so there's a lot to be gained from the video games out there that have certain events trigger or certain things happen in their game when you visit a certain location, you go to a certain place, or you kick off a certain string of events. I would say the same thing about what I have witnessed in Sensei Suplex's games, for sure. There's a good chunk, especially in like some of the epic battles that you run, that I'm like, oh man, that is like first phase, second phase, third phase boss battle stuff from, that's some epic, there's some presentation going on there. There's planning going on there. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with sort of incremental and environmental storytelling.
I actually want to.
That's the end of that.
Oh no! I actually want to add something onto that. So, obviously, like a lot of people know that I'm heavily into video games. It's been a huge portion of my life, but it actually brings me to sort of think. So, whenever you're a DM, I mean, again, we mentioned making your own DMing style and then figuring that out as you go. See if you can implement aspects of yourself into your own DMing style, Figure out or think about the things that you really, really enjoy, whether you're good at them or not, or if you just enjoy them. Figure out aspects and then see if you can find ways to implement them. So, for example, I don't know, let's say... Well, I guess to give the example, going more and more on what Matt was saying, I like video games. So, I try to implement multi-phased boss fights, and then having the sort of idea where, in phase 1, you're on this sort of part of the map, and then on phase 2, you get thrown over to the, a whole another section, an environment and all that stuff, and you gotta hurry up and adapt or whatever, right? That's a quick example for video games. I mean, I don't know, if you are a sort of, you're really into music, you know how to play a lot of instruments, I don't know, why not just decide to make a piece itself, and then maybe play that in the background of a tavern? You made you're able to do it, you enjoy it anyway, so that's a way to implement some of the things that you really, really enjoy. And I don't think anybody, I don't know if anybody would be mad or upset for you performing live in front of the thing, or performing live in front of the table, or, playing a recording of a music piece that you did. That's cool to me. I would hope so.
Yeah. I mean, the whole, storytelling amongst a group of people, that has been in human oral tradition since ancient times, right? With the bonfire in the middle, and the elder or the storyteller, telling all of the individuals or all the kids or whatever about the scary things out in the woods or whatever it may be, or the romance of the fae, whatever it is. And you know, you could just as well imagine somebody with a guitar playing a tune around a fire. You could just imagine, you know, just as well imagine somebody who maybe you learn juggling. You could do some juggling, or you know, in front of everybody. That is almost the D&D is almost like a modern recreation of that oral tradition when you think about it.
In a way, yeah.
And you can, yeah, and you could definitely bring your guitar as a DM. Bring your guitar, and you could play a tune. You could literally play the tune of what the bard is playing at the tavern. If you knew how to play guitar, just pour. You can. It's so multifaceted. You could pour whatever talents you have into it. Doesn't matter what they are.
100%. So I want to talk, to keep moving, I think, as long as I do got one last question before we go into the next segment.
Sure.
But I did want to leave my sort of real quick sort of tip when it comes to online sort of play. One thing that has helped me out significantly, and this can also be applied to in-person play, so everybody listen up, listen closely. My go-to for when it comes to helping enhance sessions, hands down, is music. Oh my god. If you're not necessarily using music or any sort of sound effects, but music especially, then you are missing out, in my opinion, on a huge aspect in the ability to help sort of storytell. Now, let me give you an example. When you have, let's say you want to run a giant sort of boss fight, and this individual is like, maybe they're a dragon or whatever. Maybe they're supposed to instill an emotion into the players. That emotion is supposed to be fear. You can have music or sort of dark epic music or sort of dreadful music sort of playing in the background to really instill that sense of fear and that epicness or that grand scale of what's about to sort of go down, compared to it being just, you know, pretty much silent. There's no reason not to necessarily implement music into the likes of your games, and it can really change the dynamic of how your players sort of view things and how they sort of interact with things. If you want more of a sort of jovial, happy sort of moment or whatever, maybe maybe you're in a tavern. Play music that reflects the mood that you're trying to present as a dungeon master. It helps out significantly, trust me. I think, just to go on to this point, Matt, let's say, you know how I do clashes, right? Like, you know, the sort of grand, and for those who don't know clashes, they're basically like, you know, in the movies where it's just like that epic moment, maybe during the climax of the fight, where it's just like the antagonist and the protagonist, they clash blades, and it's a sort of test for might and test for power. Or maybe you watch anime and it's just a sort of, they're throwing magic and arcane spells and it's one giant final clash, whatever it may be. That's what I'm talking about. Now, in those moments, now you as a player in my games before, you know that I play more fast-paced sort of music, more epic, grand sort of music compared to, like, you know, the run-of-the-mill stuff for the boss battle. And what I've noticed is whenever I do those things, the player's engagement, it goes up tremendously. You see as people are like getting really hyped and into it, they're like sort of maybe even being a little bit more nervous because it's sort of a grand sort of scale. They're like, oh gosh, I don't want to mess up. This is exciting. I got to contain myself, you know? That's a lot of the time music can help bring those type of moments or bring that sort of engagement or bring that emotion out of your player. So do not sleep on it. Definitely try to implement those sort of tactics in your games. Matt, did you want to add anything to that?
Hell yeah. But hell yeah to music, that is to say. Because like the whole, I mean, I know no quicker way for people to get into the mode of being in their character than to have a soundtrack begin playing. That is the moment where all of the like goofing around and chatter at the table and laughing, and the DM, you know, being all laid back and just saying, "Hey, how are you guys going?" And then all of a sudden, serious face, curtains open, and you are there instantly. Music has that power to bring everybody into the fold. I would 100% say that that is a cheat code for music is a cheat code for immersion. Now, like descriptive storytelling and you know, compelling dynamic action, those things do it as well. But music is by all intents and purposes a cheat code. That is a very easy way to just set the tone right away.
100%. Now I'm wondering if we have enough time for this quick little question before we go into the next segment. Yeah, let's go into this one real quick. So, Matt, real quickly. What's one thing that you think a lot of new dungeon masters struggle with, and how do you think we can solve it, or how do you think you can kind of solve it?
Sort of goes to some of the stuff I've said before, and that is the confidence of being up there, but also sort of coupled with learning how to be adaptable. Because like the amount of times that I've seen people get like dungeon masters or early dungeon masters get upset because things are not going a certain way that they planned, sort of describes to me that sometimes new dungeon masters go into it thinking that they can tell their novel to everyone, and that is not what D&D is for. You can do really compelling storytelling in D&D, but you need to remember it is an interactive it's an interactive medium, and you are bouncing, you are exchanging with the players at the table, and the players will always do something that you did not plan. And so how does one become adaptable? I would say, if you're starting out, once again, you can make the scope smaller. You can create circumstances where you can actually learn to sort of write up some possible contingencies, or have a backlist of NPCs or monsters that you can throw into a situation. In my case specifically, I have the benefit in my Thursday game, Tales of Siglasia, of working within a single city. It is a city-based campaign.
Yeah.
So having a small geographic location is super easy for that, because you can actually hold together in your mind like all of the, who the individual NPCs are. You don't have hundreds of NPCs. You have maybe a handful, right?
Yeah.
You have maybe a handful of dangers and monsters to deal with. And so always starting your adventure or starting your DMing in a smaller environment is helpful for that case. So I guess my answer is sort of 50-50. It is the courage of being up there, and is sort of teaching yourself a little bit about how to deal with the back and forth between you and the players, and adapting, because you want to be able to tell, you also want to be able to tell the story that the players are telling. If the players are going a specific direction, you can probably, you may have some tools to help, guide them in a particular way, but it's not just your story, it's their story too. And so if you come into it with that expectation, and you have some things written up just as as backup content, that'll be really useful to you.
Fantastically put. I think to give my opinion on one thing that I see, not necessarily like the biggest thing, but one huge thing that I see a lot of new DMs struggle with is, well, it's more so making sure everything is perfect, everything is like 100% done or fleshed out or whatever it may be, and ultimately not getting started behind the sort of table. A lot of the times, from what I've seen just in the community, like my community and also just the D&D community, is we'll have a lot of people who are really, really excited and super giddy and just very much into like, I'm going to be able to build a grandiose world. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be epic. It's going to be awesome. And, we'll be here like, okay, guys, I'm going to run a campaign. It's going to be sick. I just got to build up the world and we'll be good. Fast forward 3 weeks. Hey, is the campaign ready to go? Nah, I gotta get this whole organization done. I gotta get the lore. All right,
Yeah.
and then fast forward 3 more weeks. It's like, hey, buddy, we still running that campaign? Hey, I'm almost done. I'm making the bakery over off on the whole concept that you might make. They just
Gotta get that bakery. Gotta get those baked goods.
Yeah.
They need something to eat.
Like, oh my god, I say that, hey, it's better to have it finished and done rather than perfect, because again, if you want to be able to improve on being a DM, like you mentioned before, that we've been sort of harping about before, if you want to figure out your DMing style and all that good stuff, you gotta actually DM, you gotta actually play, you gotta sit behind the screen, you gotta get to it. So focus, I would say really just focus on, getting to that point of actually running the game, figuring out what you actually need to, the bare minimum to run said game. Now, when you're first starting out, you may not know. You may not know what's important and what's what's not important, what is important, right? But I've been a huge advocate for it, and I think I still am. Now, you know me, Matt. I can't run a module to save my life. I can't. I'm terrible at it. People in chat know that I've tried to run Rime of the Frost Maiden, and I've tried to run Tomb of Annihilation, and those campaigns took homebrew turns real quick.
I mean, the thing is that I don't think it has anything to do with whether or not you can run a module. I think it's very much that those modules are set up in a lot of modules are set up in a certain way where it presumes the characters are going to kind of like gravitate in this direction. But half of that module is a setting, and it's kind of just open for the most part. So it's like,
hear me out.
Yeah,
I gotcha. That is true. But I still stand by this. I think even whether you decide in the future to be a homebrew exclusive DM or a module based DM, whatever it may be, I think 100% you should, at least when you're first starting to DM, pick up a small little one shot, or pick up maybe the starter's kit or something to be able to take your mind off of learning and sort of hammering home, okay, I gotta learn how to make characters, I gotta learn how to make a plot, I gotta know how to make a setting, I gotta know how to make this and this, and then on top of that, I need to know a handful of rules to, even be able to run D&D and like figure out how to, play the game, right?
Yeah.
Modules take a huge, hefty chunk of that sort of stuff out.
Oh my god, they do. They're so oh my god.
Work smarter, not harder. It takes a lot of stuff that you don't have to worry about and just throws them off to the side, so you can really focus on, again, well, one, playing the game, so then you can get that experience, so then you can be the best dungeon master for you and your table, and then also just, well, one, you get to play the game, you get to have fun, right? You get to have fun and play the game. But lastly, you really get to learn from those mechanics, or you get to learn how a adventure is kind of made or constructed, So highly recommend starting off like with a small pre-written one shot and all that good stuff, for sure. But there is one other thing that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Sure.
And it kind of goes into the preparation thing, but it is a lot of the time I see a lot of people, they struggle with when it comes to representing the likes of their ideas, whether that be in scenes, whether that be in plots, stories, but also a huge thing being in characters. I feel as if a lot of the time, you may have this grandiose idea of, what do you call it, this character, this awesome NPC in mind, but you don't necessarily know how to sort of convey it. You might look up images online, and again, if you're streaming your game, it's like, it's kind of that gray area of like, can I use that image in the stream? It's like, probably not, right? Sure. And even then, when you're necessarily DMing in person, you may have that issue of like, okay, I like the way this person is, but it's not exactly what I want. Where I'm going to actually be able to help each and every single one of you guys out. If we switch on over, Be Never Ending actually has this awesome little character creation app where you, everybody in chat, and everyone around the internet can actually get involved, and you can actually make your own characters in said sort of application. Whether it's an NPC, whether it's a player character, whatever it may be, you can use this to help brainstorm those ideas and also be able to use them in your games through this little app. So we're gonna actually, Matt, how about this?
Yep.
Let's try to make some characters, or you can make an NPC from Tales of Silesia, Shadows, whatever you want. Let's try to make some characters in this app real quick. What do you think?
I think that sounds like a fantastic idea because I've been wanting to dig into this app pretty much all day with you. So let's go and do it.
Look at that. Little transition right there. Oh, wait, hold on. That's not the right overlay. Wait a minute. What the heck? Oh, no. Oh, here, I got it. I'm going to fix this little thing real quick. Boom. Boom. Bam. Slam. Jam. There he is.
All right.
All right, let me fix that real quick. Boom, ba boom.
Hello, everybody. I'm small. Oh God. Oh, I'm growing. Hello, everyone. Oh.
All right. So while I'm pulling this up or whatever, you can actually pull up the app here. I'm going to drop the character builder in chat if I can for just one single moment. Or actually, mods, if you guys could drop that the application or the website in chat. I think I just got it. I don't know if that's the correct one. It should be though. And you guys actually alongside can, you know, go with us and make your own little characters. Heck, if we have enough time and maybe if we go to the Discord, we might be able to, maybe, no promises, but we might be able to show off a bit of the character art that you guys made on stream. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to see if I can make some soulbound characters or any sort of NPCs from Project Aurora in this sort of thing. So let's go through this. Let's go through this. So it starts off where we basically make a new character over here. And we start off with the sort of character builder. Now you can, from what I can understand, there's like lots of different builds that you can sort of use and choose and all that sort of craziness. So you can decide what your character build is going to sort of be like. We're gonna choose, I guess, this one for now. We're gonna be Swole Patrol. Boom. As almost all of Sensei Suplex's characters, they're always, for some reason, absolutely massive. Ooh, that's the wrong thing. There we go.
I chose the big husky boy.
Yeah,
the really big one.
Heck yeah. So, ooh, you know what? They have beast heads. Do I have the dragon? I might not have the dragon unlocked. Oh no, I gotta get the dragon unlocked. I was gonna make your call. Oh well, that's fine. All right, so we're going to let's make a simple one. Let's make a simple one. Actually, I'm going to, instead of making a super swole person, I'm gonna make Kaio from Secrets in the Sand. Now he is basically a druid character who has this sort of strange sort of magical arcane eye gifted by devils themselves, and he uses that to be able to enhance his sort of fighting style and capabilities and his everyday life as he has sort of telekinesis. So let's see if we can make him real quick in this sort of this little app. So for Kaio, we're gonna just go with a simple head like this. I think this is fine. Yeah, I think that's good enough for our boy.
In the meantime, I'm going to see if I can put together Orgoth from Tales of Silesia. If I can just throw Orgoth together in quick time.
What is this? I've actually never seen this before. Oh, okay, I get it. Now we don't need any of that for don't need that for what do you call it, Kaio. Take that off. There we go. Uncheck that. There we go. Let's see. So Kaio, I think we're gonna be mainly looking towards the lower portions. He doesn't have any horns, so we don't need that. Let's go to the hair. So we're looking for like long hair.
Pigtails.
Pigtails
Pigtails.
for Kaio? That's gonna be like if Zale decided to, you know, like have a day out with the boys or whatever, and they start braiding each other's hair.
I mean, there's always the potential for a beach episode, and you never.
I think Zale's gonna have to roll extremely high. I'm talking like a 40 on a persuasion check to get Kaio to do that. That's a stretch. So long hair. I think this might be good so far. Is there anything else, just in case? Don't go to our options. Got dress. Ooh, I can make like a Martin over here. Oh my gosh! Look at this sort of ponytail. Reminds me of the character I saw earlier.
There are a lot of options here.
Yeah,
It's a lot to work with. Oh, I guess that's. Oh, I got the Orgoth, that is to say the red orc wizard spell singer, is gonna have a big old mohawk, and we are going to I'm gonna see what he looks like with a big mohawk.
Awesome. So we got that. We got Kai over here. We got the long hair. We're gonna need to change the color on it. Oh, do we change the color? Oh, there we go. Okay, so he has black hair. And I'll say, oh, you get the little, you know, dot picker and all that stuff. And he has like a sort of, I would say if anything, you probably have like a green tint to it. Right. How do I choose the highlights? Or is it, okay, never mind. I was confused by the thing. It was just highlighting over it. Okay. So let's go into this. So again, this is while I'm sort of going over this, I think this is a huge or very, very good app to, again, be able to help sort of come up with maybe character concepts or ideas, whether you're, a player trying to make up their new character, or just a DM trying to, make up their new NPC, whether it's the big bad or just a random friendly shopkeep. And you guys can actually just use these in your games, for sure. So, let's get some eyes for Kaio. A little bigger.
Ooh, we got some big horns. We got them tusks.
I think this is pretty accurate for Kaio because it's like a face of like, please stop talking to me. Because he is not having it. Yeah, I think that's what it is. And then we got eyebrows. Y'all gotta remember to make art requests too, because we'll make options that people want. Oh yeah, that is true. That is an option for everybody in chat. Again, if you have some art requests or anything, you can be sure to, again, hop on the website, check to see if there's anything that you really, really want, and then go from there. Alrighty, what kind of eyebrows do we want for Kaio? I think that's pretty good. I mean, he doesn't have anything like super profound, I don't think. If anything, it's more angry. Yeah, he's our edgy boy of the Auroraverse, let me tell you. And there's a lot of edgy boys, but not like him. Not like him.
Definitely setting the bar on edge.
Ears, I mean, he just has some simple ears. I mean, if anything, they'd be like Elven. Yeah, you can't even see him, obviously, through the hair. So it makes sense. Let's go with the face. He will have a nose. That is important. Oops. Let's see what we got here. Smirk. He needs a nose. He looks a little weird right now. Hold on.
He looks like a changeling.
Yeah.
Like a changeling that got pretty close, but then forgot the nose.
Yeah. And Be Never Ending actually says, so some of the brand new heads haven't been released to the general public yet, so there still are options that aren't selectable for them. Okay.
No, we got fresh new content coming out. That's great.
Yeah. So,
continually supported.
Matt, look at my screen. This is the angst I'm looking for. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what noses we got. I mean, I don't think he has anything like of a special nose. It's just a nose. It's just a nose. Go with that. Pretty simple. Yeah, I think that's pretty simple. Oh, do I color it? Or, yeah, let's go with that. Oh, wait, no. I think I messed up. I think I messed up a little bit. That's fine. All right, we're going to go up to here, and we're going to go to the body. We're going to fix him up a little bit. So the artistic ability and color picking is now coming to fruition. A little bit of a pale boy, so I think that's good enough. Yeah, actually, I'll give him a little bit of a tan. Sure. All right, and then let's go into his eyes. We got that. Does he? Do we have any face paint options? I wonder. Because he does have face paint. Maybe we'll see. Does he have any facial hair? Nah, he's pretty much clean shaven. All right. So now we got all of this sort of going on. Let me make sure. Oh, here we go. Facial tattoo. Yeah. No available acid. Not yet. Facial makeup. Not yet. Dang it. Facial scar. Nope, not yet. That's fine. Okay, but I mean, yeah, this is pretty accurate for Kaio, not gonna lie. Where would I go to change his outfit now?
That would be across the top where you see build. There should be equip right next to it.
Build next to it. I'm blind, Matt. Help me.
Let's see. You got. Oh, is it not? Oh, yeah, it's right there. It's right there.
I had to scroll up a little bit. There we go. Okay, we're good. All right. Let's see what we got here. So, Kaio, he didn't really have anything like in it. He had like feathers in his hair. That was about it. I don't think there'll be anything for that. And maybe not. Not really expecting that, because that's like a real specific thing.
You gotta get yourself the premium version. Get some of them feathers.
Yeah.
You got some feather caps there. You got all sorts of fancy,
you know,
fancy caps.
I love the fact that he has the flower into his his hair. I feel like Zale would do this, and then he's just super angry about it. Like, I will hurt you, Zale. Take this flower out of it. I'm gonna strangle him. He's gonna lose it. Oh man, he won't. Ah, goodness gracious, Kyle, what are we gonna do with you? All right, torso, chest menu. Now we're gonna get into everything. So Kaio's a very, very simple individual. Let's look for some druidic wear and find that. All right, we'll start us off with the sort of just general shirt. Actually, we'll go with the tank top for now. We'll keep that. See if we can find some stuff. I think this is more accurate, to be honest. The sort of sash is going across him. We got some belts making him look like a Guilty Gear character. Perfect. This might be a little bit more accurate. Maybe. No, I think that's more of snowy sort of vibes. Matt, how's it coming along over on your end?
Well, let's see. I'm trying out all sorts. You see, I feel like right now I'm taking Orgoth to the fantasy version of Coles, and we're just going into the bringing him to the dressing room, and it's that montage. He's walking out, he's strutting his stuff, and I'm just sitting there like nodding my head or shaking my head. It's that whole montage. That's what's going on right now.
That whole thing. That's what we like to hear. So, as a tradition for all the, Auroraverse characters, half of them are shirtless, and, Kaio is no exception. I don't make the rules up, I just kind of enforce them. So, hey, it is what it is.
So, Orgoth is not shirtless. Orgoth definitely has an outfit that's sort of like this sort of impending not impending. What's the term I'm looking for? This foreboding sort of wizard like outfit. Lots of red. Of course they are a red orc. Something they need to wear something that is going to represent that's going to sort of represent them as a dangerous individual who escaped from a cult of blood magicians. So we have to be able to encapsulate that mood.
So I think we gotta go with this. So we're gonna make this blackish. Yeah. So about like that, and then I also need to change the color for a couple of these other things. So that we need to change the color of this to like a brownish sort of deal. I would like some more necklace options. Yeah, that'd be super cool. That'd be definitely really, really cool. Cyan? What do you mean by that? What are you talking about, Ruler? What are you talking about? Ah, boy. I think this was what we're looking for. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. Oh shoot. We gotta go. All right. All I know is I gotta beat Matt. If I can beat Matt, then we're good.
I'm pretty close, I gotta say.
Oh god.
I'm pretty damn close. I'm already on pose. Oh, it says, oh, well, I guess we're moving on the stage. What is the stage gonna look like?
All right, you're too fast. Okay. All right, we don't need that. It's good enough. Shoulder. I mean, hey, he didn't really have much stuff on his shoulder. I'll give him some like, lower arms. We'll give him some. Yeah, there we go. Give him some like stuff to be able to help this guy out.
My goodness. You actually might catch off with me because I am just spending my time adoring all of the different stage options and just how many of them and how evocative so many of them are, and how I don't think I can figure out which one. There's so many good ones.
Hey, I'm working on giving this man pans. It's a process, you know? You gotta start from the top and you gotta work your way down. I wouldn't do that in real life. I always start from the bottom and then work our way up to the top. But hey, here we are. Let's see what we got here.
Oh, they got auras. You can... Oh my goodness.
So what's going on right now? Right now, what we're doing is we are basically making a couple of characters in the likes of the Be Never Ending app, where we're basically showcasing like how if you ever have struggled with finding that specific piece of art for that NPC or that player character that you're going to be playing in the coming days, this is an app that will be able to help you guys out and, you know, be able to express your ideas and creativity. So that's what we're doing. He should have, I don't know, maybe, I guess we can keep this. Not exactly what I'm going for, but I need that subscription. Oh, here we go. I think this is perfectly fine. He didn't really have too many designs or anything.
I know why. I know why I went faster than you. It's because I didn't even think about color, and I need to go back and start putting color.
Guy is just in black and white, like as if it's the old days. What are you doing? You're talking about me. You're talking about me. All right. Dang, I can make a WWE wrestler with this. Kaio has just decided to basically be black and white for now because we don't want to run out of time. Boop boop. I mean, I think this is pretty accurate.
You could choose the base, you could choose the accent, you could choose...
Actually, no, I think Kaio actually didn't have any shoes on. He was pretty bare bones with he just had wraps. Oh man, be quiet, Elderberry. I'm not. I'm not even gonna read that. I'm not even gonna read your message. You stop that. All right. I think we'll go with this and this, and I think we're good. There we go. And then belts. You gotta have belts because you gotta be a Guilty Gear character. Sash would be pretty dope. Ooh, I like this one a lot. Heck yeah. There we go. I like that one a lot for sure. Give me Rashid vibes. I think that'll be all for now. Yeah, that's good enough. And then let's get some magic in, and I think we'll be good.
Oh dear.
yeah, we caught up to you, Matt, huh?
Yeah, you did.
All right, there. Boom. Good enough. He's channeling the druidic might and magic. Companion. Oh my gosh, dude, they have a hyena. That'd be... I doubt it, but... Oh my...
That'd be...
I love this.
Oh, they got bears.
Hawks. They might. That's... I mean, it's not a hyena, but it's pretty darn close. I'm not gonna lie. It's like a jaguar. They got a lot of animal options. That's crazy. Let us... All right, this is probably the closest we're gonna get to a hyena, so let's go with that. There we go. So we got, this is the dog, or not the dog, but this is the individual that that Ilva had to deal with from long ago. You remember how that story went?
Uh-huh. Lots of pain.
Lots of pain. And there we go. I think we got it. We're good enough. Kaio had a makeover. Oh wait, we got to do a pose. Crud. We're still rolling with poses. Haha, I can move on to the next thing. Stage, good enough. Desert, boom, easy. More? We don't need more, do we? Hey, there we go. So there's our little Kaio of the Samada or Oculi clan. There's a little makeshift thing. I want to go back into this and be able to like sort of change up the colors from black and white and really go into depth and detail about it. But Matt, you got to show it off. You got to snip and tool it. It doesn't matter whether it's finished. It's got to be done. Remember what we said earlier.
All right. So here's I'm gonna drop this in, and this does not look anything like. You're gonna laugh at this. This does not look like this does not look like Orgoth. I got pretty close, but I think I realized that there are some that I skipped over.
Oh no!
Don't
ruin Aurora's favorite hot boy. Come on now, come on.
I mean, you'll find out in a moment here. I'm sending it.
Alrighty.
It is sent.
Oh my goodness!
I forgot to color it. I forgot to color the clothing.
Oh my god! You didn't give him a nose.
I gave him a nose. I swear I did.
Where is his nose, Matt?
I clicked on things too fast and the nose did not confirm.
Roller clip this and send this to Orgoth.
Oh dear. Phoenix is gonna be like, what is this? What have you done?
Oh my goodness, I love it. No nose. I imagine him just saying it. Zug, I have no nose. I don't know what happened to it.
Oh dear. Man. I'm sending it to him right now.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And with that, all right, let's switch on over to the main sort of overlay for just a moment. Matt, so again, everybody in chat, if you guys want to be able to have a little bit of fun, go a little wacky and wild and use that character creation app, link is in the chat. You can go check it out right then and there. Make your own NPCs, make your own player character art, and more in that little bit of chaos ball of fun. So, Matt, before we wrap up everything on this stream of being, trying to get into dungeon mastering or game mastering and all that stuff, I do like to always ask my guests for any show that I run one final thing. So, Matt, whether you want to use it or whether you want to attribute this to like a life, DMing, D&D in general, or whatever it may be, what is your sort of mantra or your go-to sort of tip or sort of belief or ideal when it comes to, I guess maybe this sort of grandiose sort of role-playing game? If you want me to go first, then I can give you a little bit of a sort of idea of what I'm talking about. You want me to do that real quick?
Be my guest. You go ahead and tell all of our esteemed viewers what your personal motto or what your personal piece of advice is.
Yeah, sure. So I would say, hands down, everybody in chat, pay attention. I know you probably have us on the second screen. Bring us to the first screen for just a second. Bring us to the first screen as drops of knowledge. So a lot of the time I've always harped about it, and I still do to this day, but I remember when I was first starting to be a dungeon master and a player walked up to me, and not physically, obviously I was DMing online, but they walked up to me and they was like, so Sensei, I'm trying to understand how this sort of D&D game works, and so like I don't really get it, so like how do you win, how do you lose, how do you win D&D, how does that work? And I kind of chuckled to myself and I laughed and I sat them down. I basically explained, well, hey, winning D&D is actually extremely simple. You can win D&D, no matter what game it is, in only 2 steps. Now, those 2 steps is, number 1, well, I know it's crazy, but you gotta have fun. We're here to play D&D, we're here to play games, we're here to play TTRPGs or whatever it may be to have fun. And if we can all strive to do that, if that can be our main focus, if everybody at the game table, yourself included, whether you're a dungeon master, whether you're a player, if you can make sure everybody at that table can have a super fun and fantastic time that they'll remember for who knows how long, then you're doing your job right. That's number 1. That's the first part of how you win D&D. The second part, or the second step, is you gotta make sure all your players are comfortable. Whether that's being comfortable to, express themselves or be able to make the characters that they want to play, or, be willing and being in that sort of safe space to be able to, role play, get a little bit weird, get a little bit, sort of step out of their comfort zone and do this crazy sort of thing for however long it may be, for 3-4 hours, but being comfortable enough to really just have fun in the first place. If we don't have step number 2, if that's not really completed, if you're not comfortable, well, then more times than not, then you're probably not going to have fun. So again, if you want to win D&D, make sure you're having fun, make sure everybody's comfortable at the game table, and that's how you do it. That's been my sort of motto when it comes to DMing, playing, whatever it may be. And that's just, kind of words to live by. So, Matt, that's my thing. what would your number one tip, motto, whatever it may be, what would be for you?
Well, I have a lot of tips and mottos. However, most appropriate, I think, for the particular occasion. Very similar to your point too. Everybody is there to be immersed in an experience together. The only way you can do that is to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to be somebody who is able to present yourself as a person at the table through a character that you've created. Hopefully that character has some sort of aspect of yourself. It doesn't necessarily have to, but the best way for you to get into a character is to be yourself. Especially if you're a first-time player, or this is true as a DM too. The only person you can be is yourself, and so having your own voice at the table, having your own voice behind that DM screen, and being able to reveal parts of yourself as an individual through your character is a very profound experience. And as you get better at it, you get to emulate other characters, perhaps other characters that you haven't really thought of previously. And it allows you to expand your own understanding of people in the process. And the only way for you to go through that entire process is from the first spot, from the first place, is to be willing to be vulnerable. Because everybody is there to interact and to have fun. And the only way you can do that is to open yourself up to the table.
Well put, well put. That being said, that is a fantastic sort of point to sort of be able to conclude and wrap up our show and wrap up our stream. First off, I want to give a special shout out and a thank you to our Chaotican Writer. Matt, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I hope you enjoyed yourself. It was fantastic. Oh man. So Matt, I
sincerely appreciate you bringing me on. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just slow to respond. I super appreciate you bringing me on, for being here and being able to speak a little bit of experience and expertise on dungeon mastering. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with the Neverending app. And I would like to, for those of you who are watching, to go check it out right now and start throwing some characters together, because there is a lot of content there, a lot of great art on that application. And I think you could make some pretty interesting stuff. As a matter of fact, I would love, for those in the particular space of Project Aurora, I think you should all jump onto that app and you should start throwing your results into general chat or art sharing.
Wink, nudge,
wink.
Come on, do it. Jokes aside, but yeah, that is great. So real quick, Matt, where can these lovely people be able to find you? Where can they find you at? What do you got? Any projects sort of in the works? Go it all. Shout yourself out. Plug everything.
Sure thing. Once again, I am a Dungeons and Dragons streamer at twitch.tv/chaotican_writer. I am also a writer, and I, aside from short stories and being in the process of working on a novel, I have a website at www.chaoticanwriter.com, where I post articles about world building, storytelling, tabletop. And there are some resources there too, such as random name generators that I have put together myself. I am also the co-DM lead of the Project Aurora mini project, which is, as described before, it is a community of Dungeons and Dragons players, DMs, who all are functioning within a singular universe, and I'm very excited for the setting that we are putting together for that project. There are bits and pieces here and there of other things that I'm doing, but that is the meat and gravy.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. With that, I guess to quickly sort of, tell the people where you can find me. I mean, again, Sensei Suplex, you can find me over on Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, you name it, Instagram, whatever it may be. Find me over there, as I, again, am a professional dungeon master who runs, again, helping with that living, persistent universe known as Project Aurora. It's a fantastic time. Be sure to join it or stay updated with it. But that being said, we got a lot of sort of valuable information for all of our viewers and more. So again, just summarize a couple of the points that we made. Again, if you are sort of or trying to wonder like, hey, whether maybe DMing will be your sort of thing or maybe your jam, you gotta try it out. You gotta try it out. You gotta get yourself behind the table, or not behind the table, but behind the DM screen and just go for it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's gonna be bad. It might be. It could be good. It could be perfect. It could be amazing. But there's also that chance it's going to be bad. But that is okay. That is perfectly fine. And that is fantastic because
100%.
that means you can improve, and get better and be the best dungeon master for your table and your party. Right? So,
absolutely.
We also talked about being a player in DM helps significantly, so use your resources, whether you have a dungeon master that you are a player with, maybe ask them like how they sort of do stuff. Don't be afraid to sort of, ask them for a little bit of help or assistance, maybe even invite them to play. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. Inviting your dungeon master to play in a game that you're campaign or like you're running for the first time, they will be ecstatic. They will love you. That's a little cheat code into the DM's heart. That's all I'm saying. But regardless, being a player again in a DM also helps significantly as you can get perspectives from both sides. Also, again, don't compare yourself to anyone else, whether it be your dungeon master or any other DM that you see around. Make your own style and own it. And again, be the best dungeon master for your table. Use your resources and you'll be good to go. So with that, that is your D8 for inspiration. Make sure to take it, make sure to use it well, and be able to make and break and build up your D&D games to bring them all the way up to that of the next level. Thank you guys again for watching. You guys have been a fantastic audience, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys. Wave to the people, Matt. Wave to the people.
Bye-bye, everybody.
We'll be right back.